Now we want to look at unethical practices in Australia. What's happening? What's going wrong in procurement? Some of you know something about collusive tendering. We mentioned something about it, but now we'll cover that from different angles. So what we are trying to achieve, we want to make sure that we have open and fair competition, that everyone will be having an equal opportunity to quote, to take an opportunity to give you revised quote, and if you want to give bidder one an opportunity to revise, bidder two should take another opportunity to revise as well. You cannot just communicate with individuals about that. Accountability, we need some people who are responsible. Probity and transparency, and this is one of the issues that we are facing. I worked in a procurement department before, and I have seen people working, so it's I don't know, it's tragedy that you don't get people well educated to know what is wrong and what's right. They feel that whatever they are trying to do is something that shows their skills, that they are smart and intelligent when they try to bluff and manipulate people to accept certain tenders. So unless we are ethical enough, all of these practices cannot be attained. And what is the problem that I face myself, that when you see the superior is encouraging the unethical behaviors, because he doesn't feel or realize that it's unethical. He feels that this is the best way to get money, or to save money. It is about education. It's about culture. If the culture is like that, you cannot blame anyone. The culture is like that. And this is no different here in Australia. We have the same problems everywhere, because people are driven by profit maximization. So we talk about the best practices in risk management and value for money. So we have code of ethics. In the UK, they have CIP. So what they are trying to say, if you want to have a code of ethics for tendering, we want to make sure that you declare that you have no previous interest before. So in any project where you tender, you must say that, okay, we know the director of this, or we know this guy, so this could affect the way how the decision is made. You need to declare if you have any previous connections. Confidentiality. You cannot just tell bidder one, look, bidder two has given me 100,000, so go down. You cannot just do that. Everything is confidential. Accuracy of information. You must make sure that as a client that all information is disseminated appropriately and everyone is going to have proper and right information. And the fair competition. You cannot have a very good tendering atmosphere unless you got proper environment where people compete fairly. Everyone will have an equal opportunity. And business gifts, when you can accept and when you cannot accept gifts. Without having a code of ethics telling me what to accept and what not to accept, how would I know? So we have to have a code of ethics. Okay, so these are the basic stuff. So mainly we have two parties who can abuse the fair competition. We have the client who can abuse it, or we have the contractors, the bidders, who can also abuse it. So whether the client will do it in his own, or the consultant who is the agent of the client can do it on his behalf. Okay, so we have the same problem. Both of them are working in the same boat. Okay, so what could be an abuse of competition? So this is abused by whom? When we say fake tendering, bid shopping, price signaling, alternative bids, who's doing this? Clients, right? The client can, for example, one by one, if fake tendering in Dubai in 2008, when the crisis hit us in the market, so many companies, many clients tried to get money by inviting people to bid, and when you are invited to bid, you need to pay 5% of the total cost of the project as a bond, or sometimes you pay a fee to get the documents. Depends on the case. So they were just trying to raise bids, but at the end of the day, they were not serious enough to go ahead with the project. So we call it fake tendering. And then there is bid shopping, where you get the lowest bidder and you say, okay, we got 500. Who wants to go down? Who wants to go down? 450. Okay, so bid shopping, where you don't have confidentiality at all. You breach the whole concept of confidentiality. And you have price signaling. Like, you don't just say what is the price. And look, his price is much cheaper, like 20% cheaper than you. That is not applicable because, again, confidentiality will be compromised. So technical leveling, when someone is putting a lot of efforts in his bid, in his proposal, to meet your satisfaction, and you are very impressed with what he has offered you, and then you take all the technical merits of that particular proposal, and you ask the second bidder to comply with that, and he can submit a revised proposal. Why you are doing that? You think it's fair because at the end of the day you need to compare apple to apple, but you should not, because each proposal should be analyzed on its merits. The whole lot, you take the whole lot or you reject the whole lot. Okay, so it's something that's also happening. And sometimes we have post-tender clarifications or communications. At this point of time, you must communicate with everyone. If tenderer A says, let us do this, okay, you have to say that to all other bidders. Everyone should be informed. All of them should be on the same page so they have equal opportunities. So I put a lot of details about this, especially with regard to post-tender clarifications. But what I have covered now is more than enough for you just to understand the basics of it. Okay, so any question on this? You can just read through that, some other information available for you to understand it. Okay, with regard to contractor, because now there is a lot of focus on contractors. It's not the contractor only, it is the employer. The employer is doing a lot of bad behaviors, but there are no remedies sufficient enough to stop them doing what they are actually doing so far. So what do you need to know regarding the contractors? We have two regulators now. We have ACCC and we have ABCC. All of them are doing similar stuff. You know, sometimes they are doing the same thing. Like, for example, collusive tendering. It was part of ACCC. What they were doing, anyone who's caught doing collusive tendering, like 2 or 3 gather and say, okay, let us just play and manipulate the prices, so you will take this job today, next tender we will take that job. Okay, so they were playing with the bids and they were not doing it fairly. So it was the responsibility of ACCC until we got the Building Code 2016, where we got a new scheme of remedies for construction projects only. So anyone who's caught doing any of these cartel conduct, price fixing or market division or restricting outputs, all of that are terms that I will show you now what does it mean. If you are caught doing something like that, you will be ending up paying heavy penalties. Okay, so now to understand what bid rigging is or fixing price is, this is a very good educative clip from Canada. They have the same regulation that we do have here. So it's a bit different in terms of the disciplinary actions, but it is exactly the same with regard to the terminology. Very funny one.
Everybody loves to be a winner. Sometimes it's by luck. Most times it's by good old-fashioned hard work. Just ask any business person. Business, any type of business, is very competitive, especially when bidding for jobs. Well, at least bidding is supposed to be competitive. Some companies try to avoid competition by rigging bids, and that's illegal.
Let's put our heads together on this one. If you make some changes to your bids and let me win this job, I'll fix my bid to your advantage on the next one. Makes sense?
It's illegal to submit cover bids to give the impression of a competitive bidding process. Your punishment can include a big fine, even jail time.
Psst. Did you see that latest call for tenders? Look, no need for us to compete against each other. You bid higher than me this time, so I win. I'll bid higher than you next time, and it's yours. Agreed? We'll make a bundle.
Maybe. Or you could simply find yourself in jail with a criminal record.
Hello? So I heard you submitted your bid yesterday. Me too. Tell you what, if you withdraw your bid on this one, I'll do the same for you on the next one. Deal?
Bad deal. Think of your reputation and credibility ruined. Busted as a cheat.
Okay, then what about this? You can bid on all the jobs in this area here, and I'll bid on all the jobs over there. Sound good?
Sounds like trouble. It's illegal for suppliers to agree not to compete in designated geographic regions or for specific customers. One more example.
Well, how about I alone bid on this call for tenders and won't bid on the next one so that you get your chance?
No. That's called bid suppression. Bad move. But here's a great way to come clean. If you've been involved in cover bidding, bid rotation, bid withdrawal, bid suppression, or market division, you could be eligible for immunity from prosecution. if you're first to report the offense to the Competition Bureau. Others who self-report early in the Bureau's investigation may also qualify for lenient treatment. If you suspect someone of bid rigging, contact the Competition Bureau immediately to report it. Bid rigging is a criminal offense under Canada's Competition Act. Whether this occurs on government projects or in the private sector, the increased costs are ultimately passed onto the public. Firms and individuals convicted of bid rigging face fines at the discretion of the court or jail time up to 14 years, or both. So be a winner. Compete to win. Do things the right way, the legal way. For more information, visit our website.
So my question is, why is it a problem then? Let them just continue doing what they are doing. So why is it a problem for clients? If it is continuing to be this way and there is no remedy available, so what's the problem? What is missing for the client now? What he's missing? What's not achieved from client perspective? What? Value for money. Value for money. So the whole concept of procurement is how can we achieve proper balance between time, cost, and the quality. If you achieve that balance, you will get value for money. If you make sure that your tendering approach is convenient and fair enough, you achieve value for money. So what value for money means? What you pay for is what you are going to get at the end of the day. You don't want to spend like 200 million on a job and it is eventually costing like 150. The actual value that you got is worth 150, not 200. And if this is continuing to happen this way, all our housing, all our commercial developments, everything will be escalating in prices because the value will not be real because of all these rogue behaviors from the bidders. Here, a lot of literature about everyone. You don't need to go too much deep in each one and try to memorize it. No, just understand this video, which I have just showed you. Examples of what may go wrong in the projects. And you know what happened here in Australia recently? I have showed you something 2 weeks ago regarding CFMEU, where they were trying to fix the scaffolding rates in Canberra, and they were caught by ACCC, and they tried to break in their offices, and they found many officials from CFMEU have been engaged in fair fixing in fixing pricing arrangement. So it's part of the cartel or collusive tendering or whatever you want to name it. So it's illegal, and they have been fined hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars because of this. And every now and then in Australia, you will hear that ACCC is doing this and that. But who's going to take over very soon? ABCC, because now collusive tendering is very specific to the construction industry. And how they have done that, where is it? I will show you. Then the legal remedies. But before that, just to know if there is any bid rigging going on in any project, these are the signals. From those signals, if you encounter any of these signals in your project, this means that we may have someone is playing around here. Okay, if someone, for example, if the supplier appears to be taking turns of winning tenders or sharing the contract by value. So you see that every 3 months he gets the same job. Every 3 months he's getting that as a regular winning scheme. So this means that, come on, it looks like there is share in the market between these people. Okay, so these are some signals. Just understand that in generic terms without memorizing any of them. Now I want just to go to the last step here, the legal remedies. So what is available to us in terms of legal remedies? What can we do about it? How can we make sure that we are enforcing the whole regime? These are the remedies. In 2012, the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission have taken serious steps to stop collusive tendering, bid rigging, price fixing, all of these conducts. And they tried to put measures, and they were very harsh on builders and the clients who are misbehaving. And what they have done as well, they said that, similar to Canada, they will give immunity to anyone who is going to inform them regarding any cartel arrangement within their organization. So you remember something I said about whistleblowers? You remember that? So if you are working in a public organization and you have found out that there is corruption somewhere, someone is doing corrupted stuff, you can inform the government and you will be protected by Whistleblower Act. There is an act in Australia that protects you. Here, with regard to collusive tendering, we have also an act protecting those who are trying to inform the government about bad behavior. So this encourages people to be more responsible and accountable to what's happening in their workplace. So this is what happened in 2012 until December 2016, when we got the ABCC package. So it's a big package. Like, we have the ABCC Act itself, and we have something called Building Code. Okay, so what you need to know about that, these are the remedies. So all of them are covered under the ACC rules. But what happened with the ACCC, it's about everything, not only construction. Everywhere. It applies everywhere. But now we are very specific to construction projects. So any covered entity, and I explained what covered entity is, any party who has already submitted an expression of interest to court for any Commonwealth-funded project. Any entity, if they are covered under the code, then they have to do this. So they have to make sure that they are not engaging in any collusive behavior. The price fixing is prohibited. So you have a list of all of them. So again, you don't need to memorize. It's exactly the same. What you have seen in the clip before, it is already there. Okay, so you don't need to go through that one by one and start to memorize it, and just understand how it is relevant to what ACC has been trying to do. So why we do have then two pieces of legislation? Why we have ACCC and now we have ABCC, and tomorrow they will fight who's going to do what? We have an issue, isn't it? There is conflict of role between the two parties. If you, there is a link that I put to you regarding ACCC versus ABCC. So if you click on that link, you will see the background, why we have tried to do something specific to construction. Because ACCC tried many times to catch any cartel proceedings or approach, but they couldn't do it because they don't have a very good legislation which shows what is right and what's wrong, especially when it comes to price fixing. They don't really know how to do that, how this is arranged, and the code itself, the building code, has already elaborated so much on the issues that must be taken into consideration. Okay, so in last February, ACCC has said also that we will be looking more closely into construction industry now. So they have appointed more officials to go to construction sites, to go to corporate offices and see whether they have any problems with regard to cartel approaches, price fixing, collusive tendering. So now they are concentrating so much on this industry, just to see if there is any anti-competitive conduct by the players. And there is something else that they are working on, and I think this is new to all of you, something called unfair contract terms. Have you heard of it? In Australia, we have a new piece of legislation which prevents the main contractors, for example, to enter into a subcontract arrangement which has unfair conditions, because you have the bargaining power, you have the cash, and you will tell the poor subbies, look, between me and the employer, I have 30 days for notification of any delay, right? But for you, you need to give me that notification within 5 days, otherwise you will lose your rights. This is unfair term. Why? Because you already got 30 days. You should give him 14 days, right? Rather than give him only 5 days, as if that you are just saying, I would love that you will fail to provide this notice in 5 days, so you will not get your entitlement later on. So any term which is found by ACCC as unfair term is illegal now. It is void. So you can go to court and the court can just say that this contract is not existing. The whole clause is void and you can get your remedy later on. The problem is that you need to go to the court every now and then. Okay? So this small clip will show you how we do that.
Running your own business, being your own boss. But running a small business can be difficult. There are people to manage, finances to balance, and that's on top of doing your job. It's never easy. It means a lot of finding clients, building contacts, and knocking on doors. And that can mean a lot of contracts. Contracts with new clients, contracts with suppliers, contracts for services such as internet or phone plans. Sometimes it can feel that everyone you deal with has a contract to be signed. But sometimes contracts can be confusing and can leave a small business in a very difficult position. Because of this, the Australian government has introduced a law to protect small businesses against unfair contract terms. The protections apply for small businesses that employ less than 20 employees and receive contracts valued up to $300,000 or up to $1 million for contracts longer than 1 year. So if you've been presented with a standard form contract on a take it or leave it basis and it includes an unfair term, that term can be declared void, which means it cannot be relied upon. Examples of terms that may be unfair include terms that allow the other business but not you to change or cancel the contract, allow the other business but not you to limit or avoid their obligations, penalise you but not the other business for breaking the contract. This law applies to contracts that are entered into or renewed on or after the 12th of November 2016. If you think you've been presented with a standard form contract that includes an unfair term, visit the ACCC website to find out what your protections are under the law.
So why this is relevant to procurement? What is the link between what I have just showed you and the procurement? Yep. There is a link, isn't it? Or you feel that is irrelevant? Do you feel it is irrelevant? There is a major link. Because part of your procurement strategy is to select the form of contract later on. And if you know that you cannot use some terms which are prohibitive now, they are not covered under the law, they are illegal, then you need to change the way how you procure, especially when it comes to the subcontractors or we talk about 300,000 now value, isn't it? So what you can do is just to enter into agreements with more than this value, so small businesses cannot be considered as small businesses anymore. So people will not be covered. So make sure that all your contracts will be beyond this. If you want to play it, you know, to play the game, I mean. Or if you get people who are, you know, any company who has less than 20 people, you know, 20 staff members, don't engage them in any project. If you want to impose your own clauses and conditions. So this is only to protect small businesses, not everyone. So if you are the employer, you don't need to worry a lot about it because it is mainly about engagement of subbies and suppliers. Yeah, so if you are the builder, you can still play around it. So we have some shortcomings. But anyway, it is better than nothing. If you click on any of these links, you will, especially if you are working for a small business, you go through that and that's very good for you to be more knowledgeable about the area. Okay? So for your own reading at home, so I have many case studies about tender fees, cover bids. Just I have put the brief, you know, try to make a summary out of it. So you just read it at home. Collusive tendering, industrial associations, market division as well, market power. And if you click on that link, you will enter into a very good source of information about legal cases where collusive tendering and those bad behaviors have been caught by ACCC. Very fruitful, very informative, and you will find it interesting if you are really into this game.